Welcome to my event editing tutorial. All my audio for those files has been lost and I'm forced to redub over it. So if you notice any inconsistencies, that's why. So first up, what we want to do is get all our files open, and you want to load up the FFT conditionals files that you got last time. I also suggest you get the TLW conditionals open, which come with the resources, which are available for download on the forums. I'll show you the difference between the two. We'll just wait a second for it to open. And now you can see we have two different files, and both of them are conditionals files. And basically what conditionals are the game telling the events where to go and what to read. So you can see on the left the FFT conditionals for the vanilla part, and on the right those are the TLW FFT conditionals. And you can notice some difference already. The first thing you want to do if you're using the FFT conditionals, the vanilla one, is to go to the old main events and old main world and click convert, so that you can use them properly and it doesn't bug out. Overall, we'll use TLW in this example, but you're free to use vanilla in the end if you understand the difference. And one of the main difference is that vanilla starts at event 2 while TLW starts at event 1. And there's also those variable 1FD, which are necessary each time you want to start an event. In TLW style, each event is just one more, while in vanilla you can see that it goes from 2 to 4 and then 5 and then 6, the load events line, and basically those means they load a new file to read the event from. And those things that I'm aligning right now are conditions for the event to trigger, but since they're a bit unnecessary in TLW style, on the right you can see the difference right now. And as you can see also in TLW style, there's only load event 2 for all of those events, while in vanilla it's different. This is the way that TLW consolidated their events, and it's much better that way. It saves a lot of space. I'll show you by going to my folder with all the TLW events. As you can see, there's a lot of events in FFT, but starting from here to here, all of those that are playing unused slot are unused, and you can use them. So that's over 230 files if I'm not wrong. So TLW is preferred over vanilla because it gives us a lot of advantages, and it's easier to read for a newbie. You don't have to go in between a lot of events to know what you want to do. On the left you can see the ID of each event. It goes from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, and under the load event instructions you can go, it goes from 1 to 2 to 3. And this is going to be a bit confusing at first because these references, they shift a lot. There's actually a guide I have to follow what we're going to do, and don't mind me clicking around. I'm just showing you what's possible in attack.out, but since this is recorded after, I don't remember what I was saying. So anyway, here's the list I was talking about that I use for Call of Power. So you can see I have my events number, my offset, my attack scenario, my event script, my conditional ID, my conditional event, and all of those are different numbers, although they are pretty much nearly the same. The event offset is what's used in the text file for the event, while the attack scenario is used in attack.out editor, and conditional ID and conditional event are used in the conditional sheets. So as you can see right now, this is a direct reference to the attack scenario, event script, conditional ID, and the load event that we see in each of these. So this is a bit hard to track when it's your first time, and this is also why I suggest TLW style, because it's easier to follow as well overall. And I suggest also that you name your event something memorable. so that you can track your folder and track what you're doing. Now we go back to our conditionals and we want to create a new event, and the new event we want to create is going to be not a battle, so we might as well copy the first part of this of the conditionals, and we can take all of this block and go scroll down until we reach the end of the file, until we reach the last event. Now this is a trick that you need more than one event at the end of your game. As you can see, rendezvous 18 doesn't exist, and it loads event 00C4, which is already used in the mirror match rendezvous. So that's a dummy event, and we'll want to keep it. So what I'm going to do is copy it twice and change it to add one more, so that we have one more dummy event. And I'm gonna change its load event just in case. It doesn't matter much since this event will not be loaded, but if you don't have a dummy event at the end, you could expose yourself to the last event in your chain not working. So now I'm renaming my event. I will change its load event number to 00C4 to 00C6, and make sure that I have my variable 1FD set to 01. And basically this is a conditional language to say, oh, this is an event, and this is before the battle. Now the second part is about attack.out, and you can see right here that I'm loading the attack.out scenario for TLW. And I'm moving around trying to find my new event, which is going to be 00C6. And after fooling around a bit, I find it. And currently the event before it is 00C5. And because I want to copy all of those interesting things like the event script, the map choice, and everything, I can just right click and do it. But after I do that, I'm going to realize that I want more than this. And here I'm just making really sure with what I'm doing that the event match the scenario list and the event script. So here you go, you can see me copy pasting, and both of them are identical except the event script that I modify. But then I remember that I actually want to modify the event that is the Urban Monastery. And while I'm double checking everything, I'm sure my past self will realize it soon. And yeah, and go back right to event 2, which is the Urban Monastery. And I copy it, go back to C5, C6, who knows, C6, and I paste my scenario. And from there I can change my event script again. And notice they're all offset by 1, scenario C6, but event script C5. And you can see also there's a lot of event script you have available. In these you can choose the music, the map. With attack.out editor, in fact, you can choose the map choice, the music choice, the second music choice, because there's already 2 music loaded in the event. You can also select if Ramza is mandatory, the ENTD choice, and the ENTD is what's in the patcher. And the after event operation in Nexana you don't need to use, because we've got a better solution with event editing as long as you use Symphony upgraded hack. And also you can see squadrons. This is useful for battles, so attack.out allows you to make your own squadrons. You can choose where in the map the units are deployed and in what direction. Now, as you can see, my ENTD choice is 101, which is the Urban Monastery battle, but in fact I want something a little bit different. So what I'll do is find my patch for TLW and load it up. And here I need to make a small notice that I don't have the correct resources for TLW, so the ENTD names are not the good ones. And this would bother me a lot if I didn't know how to do all of this, so I suggest you get your resources updated. Now you can see me, I'm going to go get the NTD 101 and copy it over to FFs because I want to use my own ENTD for this, which is what you're going to have to do if you want your own event. ENTD says where the unit goes and what they do. And as you can see, I already had done it before, but I want to show you how I would do it again. So I clone all the units I don't want with a blank one and remove everything that's not needed. And that way I have a clear cut of only the units I want. Now I have this ENTD set up now, and I don't know what I'm doing, clicking around. And basically this FF gives me those 5 units that I can choose and put wherever I want on my map and my event. So I'm gonna go search for FF in attack.out, and then I'll make sure to save my patch. So I want to back up, and I want to make sure not to overwrite my call power backup, so I make my new folder just for this patch. And I'm gonna classify it in the same place I do everything else. And it's just gonna be FFT patch. And then I'm gonna patch my ISO, which is a tool that will, of course, patch my ISO with the new information I've given it, so that now ENTD99 will be correct. And you want to be sure to patch your mod file, not your base file. Then save the patch again, just to be sure. You can never be too sure. Might actually give it a better name, just in case. Oh yeah, past me did that. So then we don't need patcher anymore, but we're gonna minimize it, and then we go back to attack.out special awesome. And what we want to do now is save it, because if we don't save our things, nothing gets saved. And you have 2 choices. You can either work from the out file or the XML file. The best option is the XML file. It saves so much time, and you don't have to go into the ISO, import your file, export it, everything. So at the beginning, when I showed you all this, I did use OpenXML, and now I'm going to save XML over the old XML and make sure that our new ENTD is in, and the attack out is in actually. So now the game knows where to send our things and what ENTD to use, but they don't know how the event goes. And for that, we need to get our event conditionals. So click on the XML file in the conditionals, copy XML data to clipboard. It will copy all this green thing, and you need to set a new file, which I already did in this example, and save all of this data in a file that ends with XML. This is going to be a patch for the FFT orgasm. There's a whole lot of numbers here, and those are all information about how the game goes. You don't need to you don't need to do anything once you copied it. And I save it in the same place I save everything else, to save space. You're free to have your own organization, but for newbies it should be good. And this is important because you're gonna have to drag them all out to find some things. And also you can see right now the path to my XML that I have copied and pasted. Go back a few seconds if you didn't see it, I was speaking. And you want both of these, and you want to put them into a folder from your patcher. And that patcher that comes with FFT Orgasm, it uses a file called XML patches that allows you to patch things easily. So those 2 files, the attack.out event data and the world map, are going to be used with FFT Orgasm, but we need to move them. So what I've done on my computer is that I set up duplicate files that update each other as soon as they get updated. But right here, I'm just going to copy and paste them right into the PSX patch path. And then I'm going to use FFT Orgasm to import them into my ISO. And this will make my ISO know that my map, my event conditionals, my world conditionals, and my attack out have been updated. And both of these files are really important because otherwise you're not able to do anything new in FFT. So as you can see, I toggle both of them, patch them right onto my mod, and now the game knows, and there's only one step left. The patcher is in, the world map is in, the attack.out is in, and now we're left with the eventing that needs to be done. So this is what we did last time, but we're not gonna keep it. And one thing to note is that with all those unused slots, well, all of those events, in fact, you can see the one we want is 0C6. And the last one before that is 0C5. And we want to make sure we take the good one. Inventors aren't labeled very well, but we can see that 0C6 is called Rendezvous 18. And there's nothing in that Rendezvous 18. It's an empty text file with just an offset and nothing else. So when we open it, it's going to be empty with just that offset. And that offset tells the game where to go and what to do. Where to print the event, in fact. So we want that, and we want to copy it and set it into our event editing file from before, which is called lo.txt right here. So I'll copy it and save it. And now we have our text file ready to go. I already had a backup, as you can see, and this is something I did just to test some stuff. So I want, so I'm going fast right here. What I do is I modified the offset, removed the text, and made 2 pause and a message in between to test if everything was going swimmingly. And you see the offset is 18C000. You always can test your offset if you go to your calculator app in X mode, enter the offset you have and divide it by 2000. It should give you the event number that you want, the one that you'll use with the load event parameter. So right now this equation should give us 00C6, which is what we're looking for. And I see past me was struggling a bit with the explanation, and that's okay. I still love you, past me. So now we're sure that we have the correct load event. And I remember I was being nervous about this because sometimes event editing, there's so much that can go wrong. So right now I'm going to go into my instructions and copy the VIF file. And you can see right here that I do it twice because I forgot to save, and this is going to be bite me in the ass a bit later because I do it maybe 4 times in this video, I think, but you don't see all of the outtakes. So basically this tells the event that I just made to make a pause, display a message, and then make a pause again. So right now I'm just triple checking that my event resembles a normal event. There's nothing special about it. And I'm showing you the world conditionals because they'll be useful later, but not right now. Those are if you want to make your own paths on the world and direct where the events go. The most important thing we're going to have to do is modify the Orban Prayer event. At the end of it, there's a command that says post event 81002, and it says basically next event is going to be event 002, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is copy that, save it over, well, actually first we make a backup of our current event, and then we're going to go check at the end of the file and change the post event to something simple, like C6. It's not simple, actually, it's the event that we want to go. And then I save and I import with VIF, so that's in the ISO now. It would have been bright for me to make a backup right then and there, but I didn't. Now past me has had quite the problem with getting this to work, so what I'm going to do here is make sure that my current file for the Orban prayer is shortened so that I don't have to go through all the event first. And I'm going to save this and import it. So now my event is really short and there's not much that can happen, and I just skip right up. This doesn't bother me because as I import the new version, if I import the old version again, I mean, everything will get fixed and be normal. So this is just a event editing trick to make sure that I don't screw everything up. And you'll notice my post event is still going to 002. I should have fixed that, but I didn't. And once again, talking about offsets. And now that I don't need this file again, what I'm going to do is edit a bit my current event to make it a little bit better. So I'm going to into my event template text file. Wow, that's hard to say. And basically that's a file with a lot of information in it about events, things that I do often, like dialogue and camera setup and how to warp a unit, make the beginning of a battle. Right now what I'm searching for is just the camera. So I want the camera to show up, and I want it to not to do much. But then I realize as I do this that really all I need is the pause, because when you edit on a quick save and you make a new event, this is what you want to do, just a pause. So you only go for the pause. And now you can see that it won't work. The Orban Monastery skips straight ahead, and then I have a black event that sends me to the world map. What happened? Let's find out. So by then my past self ran in quite a bit of trouble, and the trouble was that I didn't properly rename my quick saves. And you can see I'm searching around what's going on, and I open my settings.json for Giravis, and I find out my quick save I didn't put the PSV at the end because I forgot I'm editing on a PSVin instead of a DocStation. So now that I'm confident in what's going to happen, I go back to Giravis, enter the new command which is via QF, and I start reloading so that my event shows my new camera movement that I just implemented. So now the event editing works. And now that we have event editing, we can see that our camera is not pointing exactly where we would like it to point. So I'm going to have to show you a few tools to get your events to be working. And actually, this is the big part. So on the wiki, on FFH wiki, you have a page called Event Instructions, which you can see me navigating right now. And it has all the instructions that you need to make events. And those are all the things that you can put in the event file. And all of the wiki page are extremely detailed and show you a bit exactly what you can do with each and every of these instructions. And right now what I'm trying to show you is that we don't need all of this big fancy text that I use. We can just use a single camera. But there's tools to help us, and there's a lot we can do to get the perfect camera. And it's one of the hardest things to get right. I personally don't like a camera that moves too much, but Venel does some of these swings so right, like with the windmill. So one of the tools we can use is Ganesha, and Ganesha allows us to check the map in all angles. So we have the left-right angle in Ganesha if we put the map like this, which is the first instruction for the camera, up and down, which is Y, and the Z-axis, we should say, is the third one. So right now I changed the camera to be a little more higher, and since my saves change lower, sorry, and since my changes are saved automatically, you can see that the camera went lower than last time. And now I'm trying to make it way lower, which is very down, which I'm demonstrating with Ganesha. And there's also a tool that's called Camera Helper, which is made by Ziffany, which will help us put the camera exactly where we want it to put it. It calculates the exact tile we want to put it in, and allows us to make great transitions. Meanwhile, I'll also show you the terrain props of Ganesha, which you can use to get the coordinates. As you can see right now, it's 6x2z, and you can enter those into the camera output file, which is available in the forums. As you can see, it's 6.2, and I click on center normal size unit, so the camera will center. If there was a unit there, it would be exactly center. Then I check the 8, enter it. I don't change the angle or map rotation because I want to try it out. And the map rotation, now I know my past self is actually taking the camera rotation. And that's not what you should be seeing, it's the map rotation. But anyway, the map rotation turns the map around from all 4 angles, which you can do in game with the L1 and R1 button. And then you just need to copy paste the camera results from the result line. There's also an optional line, which I don't like too much because I find it a bit jerky sometimes, but here I'm going to show it. And you just paste those right over. And you notice there's the last byte, the plus 00000, and the one that's plus 60. Those are wait times. And you always want the camera at 0 at the start of your event, so that the movement starts from there. And the camera will instantly teleport from there to your next one. And it will take 60 milliseconds to do so. And the wait for instructions x04 means that the game will wait until the camera's moved to anything else afterwards. And I change it to 120 because it's a much smoother ride. And I make sure that my wait for instruction x04 is there. I only need one since the first is instant. The game won't wait for something that's instant. And now just by reloading you can see the difference. But now I have units moving around the map and I don't exactly see them well. So I'm not happy with that. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to change the angle. Since I know my angles pretty well, I know that minus 512 is pretty much what I'm looking for. And as you can see again, Travis autosaves with the VAQF function. And now I have a much better view of my people. And we're going to edit. We're actually making a scene of before the first fight, when those units arrive at the monastery. So now I go back to my event template file, and I'm gonna go get a few things. The first one is this unit NM, and unit NM is one of the things you'll use the most in your eventing, because it makes a unit do an animation, and you have to use them every time they move, and pretty much every time you do something that's not usual. You want to make them look alive too. And the commands I entered make every unit on the map stand still. Use unit animation 0002, which is standing still. And as you can see, now they stand still. But I'm still not satisfied. This is not a good event by itself, right? There's no dialogue, there's nothing. Nobody's moving, and nobody's entering the map, and there's no drama. So let's add some. I want this knight guy, Lezilas, to advance. So I go back to my ENTD and I check is unit ID, which is 86. And you always need the unit ID if you want to make a unit do something. And since you can change the unit ID in every ENTD, I suggest you keep it simple and always use the same for the same unit. There's a few numbers you should not use, and as long as you keep over 80, I think you're alright. So right now I went into my event template file, and when it's suck, a unit enters the scene. And you can see there's a lot of FF in those commands, and those FFs are places so that I can set my unit ID. And I'm also gonna erase the unit before it enters the field, because if it's already on the field, then it cannot enter very well. So I erase 86. And as I said, all of these commands you can find on the wiki and follow along. It's difficult for me to explain them all. But basically what we do is we're going to make him enter the field. And so we're going to move this sprite, and we're going to follow a direction later. Then we color him with presex x01, which is the third byte, which is going to darken him. Then we wait for a millisecond, make him animate moving, play a sound, draw a sprite, color him his normal color with offset zeros, with the third byte at 04. Then we move him back into his normal position. And because we will have moved this sprite before, but not his character itself, so we only need to move the sprite. And then we make him stop as he arrives on the field. So I want to know where I move this guy, and it would be on the X, Y, or Z axis, and right now it's the Z axis. And I don't know if past self wanted to make an example, or if he wanted to be funny, or he was just distracted. But here you can see I added the second byte, and the second byte is Y. So I remove 18 from his ith, and removing 18 means the unit will go higher. So when I reload, we can see Lizalev levitate down. That's not exactly what we wanted. So the mistake is corrected, and I go -18, and now the unit can enter the field. Properly this time. Whoop! That's not all we want to do for an event. Then we want him to move around here. So once again, one of the event you're going to use the most is walk to. One of the instructions you're going to use the most is walk to. And in my event template, which I heavily recommend you make your own, because once you build a lot of resources, it's really easy to get going and do stuff. And also you can find a lot of those things in vanilla and inspire yourself from it. So now I want to double check my coordinates, and I make unit 86 walk to the coordinate 63 at speed 11, and then I make sure that when he arrives, he plays the animation 002, which is standing. And if you don't do this, he'll probably keep walking forever in place, like a NPC from the NES era. And now we have our walking guy. And if you pass too fast, you get a game over. That's because the event ends and there's nothing to go afterwards. So you need to set up a proper event end, but we're not there yet. So now we want to do some more stuff, because our event is okay, but it's not great in any way, shape, or form. And here we're gonna cut ahead a few seconds. No, we're not. I'm sorry. It's gonna be for later. The face unit instruction is interesting because the bytes are inverted. The first byte is not the person is the person that's gonna be faced, and the third byte is the person that's gonna be doing the facing. So it's a bit counterintuitive. And the wait rotate unit, of course, will make us the game wait until Lizalev has turn. And now we're gonna talk about display message. Display message is one of the most complex functions, and with Giravis it gets even more interesting. And you can see past me typing in the bottom with the message ID 0x1, and that's the way Vanilla does it. All the message have an ID, and each time you go down an ID it gets +1. But with Giravis what you can do is have these variables that you do with the ampersand, I think, and you can give those variables any name that you want, and it will refer itself to the text. It can be anything in peculiar, and it can be something simple. I usually go with intro 1, intro 2, intro 3, and those texts can be in any order that you want, so you can add text later, and it's super useful. So now I'm writing text. You can use Vanilla to inspire yourself for how to format your text. You gotta make sure also it's not too big, otherwise it's not gonna display properly. And then I make a few copies to have more text to write. And this is just text formatting. It's not very interesting, but at least I can write some dialogue for my units. You can see at the end of every line there's either a AND or a BR in between brackets. A BR is skip a line and AND is the end of the text box. If you don't have those, then your text won't work, it will be too long, and they're absolutely necessary. It can be a big bother for a lot of people to format your text, especially if you modify your text later and that your text boxes are all looking nice. But you really need those BRs and the font. Well, they changed the font from red to gray or black. Well, the classic black for FFT. I mean, so the name is always in a font and the text is always in another font. So when we look at display message, the second byte is the most important. It shows that we're gonna use a dialogue right here, which is not just one blah blah, it's many blah blahs. And when we go in our event template, you can see that there's a few instructions to go along with dialogue. So, and we also see the message ID. I really suggest you follow along using the wiki. So the second byte, 91, as we're going to go check. 90 means a three-line dialog box with a portrait that we close later with change dialog. So if we put 11 there, it would be a simple speech bubble that we close after wait for instruction 1. Now for the reference, we're going to type intro 1, which is going to be the text that's going to be spoken, and the next byte after that is the unit that speaks, and that's Elizabeth, so 86. And those are all positions and fluff, basically. And at the end you can change the x1 into x2 to make the character shout or not shout. And well, he can't be talking alone, so I'm gonna copy and paste that again. And now 92 intro to 87, so the archer will answer Lizalav. 92 and 91, there's not much of a difference. 91 is going to be top box and 92 is going to be bottom box, and if we had 93, which is the maximum number of box we can have, it would be in the middle of the screen as much as it can. So you can see right now I have not saved. So Lazalev speaks, breaks a bit, and nothing happens. But you can see my file behind me in Notepad is not saved, and right now Pascal Kajo is wondering what's happening, and he's gonna try to make a change to see if he lost his control of the event. And as you can see, making this change made the text box go way farther than it should have. So there's a correction, and now the archer speaks as he should. And that's not all we want for our event. So what we're going to do, after a little bit of more adjusting, so that the text box is not at the bottom. It's really hard to fit text box, by the way. Sometimes you just have to experiment. So now we'll add more text to our event. And a few more instructions as well. We want to get this dialog going and show you what the change dialog option does. And we're also going to use rotate unit, which is a command I really like. It will allow you to rotate a unit. So for change dialog, what you want to do is find if your unit is using the 1, the 2, or the 3 in the last part of this byte, and refer it. So if the first person to speak is using 1, then change dialog 1 or 2 is going to be 1, and then you're going to change the text again. So that will mean that person 1 will say intro, we'll get the speech from intro 3 before he shut up. And meanwhile, his interlocutor, the archer, will still be talking. And those change dialogue with FFFF just mean that the text box will close upon reaching those commands. So both text box will close, and then our unit will try to rotate. So never forget his ID, never forget await rotate unit. And if we look at the command online, you can see a bit of the directions your character is going to be facing. And for this I always use Ganesha. So right now I can see that north is going to be 8. Easy spy. And so I just change it. I also want the camera to go towards the urban monastery so that we can see that it's very small and the archer has reason for concern. So once again I go to the camera helper, do some magic. And get my new camera option. I make sure to copy the angle so that the angle doesn't change too much, because remember I don't change it in camera helper, that's just my preference. Find it easier to do it on the fly because I know those things by heart. And now we can see the results. He turns around, look at the monastery. So we can see that each time we do something, our events progress a bit. We wait 50 milliseconds. And we make sure to add a bit of waits everywhere, actually, because wait is good. It gives a presence to some events, and between speeches sometimes, between responses, between movement, it can be useful to have a small pause of 10-20 milliseconds. And you see 50 milliseconds is nothing. It's not a great moment. So I make it a bit longer. And I change the camera to go slower as well, so that it feels more natural. It comes and goes at the same speed. And now I'm gonna go do some editing in the background to make this event more complete. Skipping ahead about 5 minutes in the future, we are having me edit the event to add a little bit more flavor, a little bit more text, and a little bit more fluidity to it. All the instructions that I use are pretty much the same. As we see, a face unit, camera, focus, which is new but easy to use, weight rotate unit, and the text. You'll notice I changed the text format. I don't use display dialog for everything, since only one text box will be on screen for the moment. You'll also see me copying a bit of informations and just polishing up the event. Really, this is something that you learn with time, and as you grow more and more confident in your abilities, you can notice what's necessary. And right now I'm making a unit recoil in order at the mention of Agrias motherfucking Oaks. And when we load up and try the thing, we'll see what happens. Now at this moment, past me realized that text box could be changed from 1 to 2. The last byte in the text box could be changed from 1 to 2, so that they don't bounce around when they appear. But we're going so fast that it doesn't matter. And now the schemist, he says something that makes the archer recoil. And then Lazalev is like, "That's a line, you know it, now prepare to fight." And now we have to set up the end of the event. So one thing I show here is that you can put a pause pretty much everywhere within a text message. Oh well, after a text message is displayed or before a text message is displayed, and then edit from here. So if I made a save and change the achieve my save state, then it will load from the current message I'm at, so you don't have to replay the whole event each time. But since we're already pretty much very advanced, we don't have much to do. So now to end our event, we're gonna add a post event and remove the post. So the post event goes to event 002, which is the Orban battle. So basically we go back to the battle that we originally stole this event position from. And I have a fade out that I use for all of my events, where it colors the field, the background and everything. So now the event goes by pretty fast, and now you see the fade out, so it can prepare for the next event. And now we're at the classic Orban battle, with the classic text and everything. And now we're gonna modify this event and change how it goes. We can edit every single mid-battle event like this is. And well, the first thing we need to do is make a backup of our current event, the new one that we made. Because the text file that we did first, the one that I called hello.txt, it is a temporary file, only for uploading directly to the ISO or to the quick save. So it's not in the game right now, it's just on the quick save. And if I upload a new event over it, then I will lose my text file and I will lose all my events that I did. So always do backup and clearly label them. Right now I only have one, so it's not that bad. So if we want to edit the Orban battle one, we'll need to find it. And this is the Orban prayer that I'm copying right now, while past me is doing. So he's gonna realize that in a second and go seek the Orban battle. And I go into my event directories for the Lionware and I find it, the Orban battle. And I copy and paste it over my template. I'm gonna realize my mistake in a few minutes, I guess. Because it should be into the hello.txt file. Now I'm showing you those zeros equal in jump 40 if 0. And those are basically separators in TLWs. So the first one is always going to be the first load event, the second one is always going to be the second one, and the third is going to be the third, and etc. So the one in the middle is the mid-battle event, which is the one we want to modify. And so in this event there should be 3 instances of 0 equal in jump forward is 0. Basically it changed a variable known as the conditional variable, and every time it increased by 1, then we have our target. Now I'm still in my event template, so one day I'm gonna figure it out. And we know that our event starts with kill them all, don't let any survivor from Gefgarian. So if we want to be sure we're at the right place, we're gonna seek a display message with a third byte at 6, which is here. So we know that in between this and what's under it, well, right now my past self is not helping the explanation, but right under it until the next 0 and jump forward, etc. Is not great. So I'm gonna remove all of this and make my own event. So we're not gonna change much. Well, I'm lying, we're gonna change everything. So what we're gonna do is double check, because this basically says that unit 17 and unit 34 need to be there and they need to be alive, and it's Gefgarian and it always gets the first turn, and Agrius is always alive on the first turn too, unless you're playing with some weird hacks or you're doing something really funky with your ISOs. So I'm gonna now realize that I put my event in the wrong place. So my past self was gonna correct that in a few moments, I guess. Please wait. This confusion is normal in event editing. I always get so many things confused, and going fast sometimes can be a problem. This is why I have so many backups. So now I restored my event template, and I'm gonna copy back up the orbit battle, remove the text offset again, and go to change the mid-battle event again. And here we're probably going to jump in the future a bit, because there's a whole lot of complicated stuff I do, and this is just an example to show you how it works. And of course, if I can, the file will be available to download so you can check what I did. I use pretty basic events and a bit of text editing, and then some complex battle stat editing to change a few important things. Now, one thing that I will show you is when you're editing mid-battle events, there's one very important thing you want, and you see the set command, set 7fx0001. Well, that directly relates to the conditionals. So when you have a mid-battle event, it checks any variable for the value. So if you don't change that value to 1 or something else, before the end of the mid-battle event, it will play again and again and again and again. So you always need to make sure that this variable is set. And now you can see a bit of the code that I made. And you also can notice that I changed to VIF, and I have to import every time I make a change. And this is because when you do mid-battle event change, sometimes it can bug out. So I prefer to load the complete event before I do anything, and it won't work with quick saves. So now you'll see the difference from vanilla and the event we just made. So now Fuchs is gonna go shit his pants because he recognizes Agrius. And Lazarus is gonna try to pump him up, but this archer will give up also. And poof, they changed color. They're now ours. They will fight in our team. And that's just a little bit of what we can do with advanced event editing. And you also saw the basis of event editing. So for my word of the end here, I'm just gonna say there's many things to do. It is a very difficult and time-consuming thing, but you can truly do anything you want with events. And if you put your heart into it, you can really do miracles. Well, small miracles. It is fun to see the possibilities that you can unlock and everything that you can do with them. Thank you for following along, and please remember that I am available if you have any questions.